The author of this fanfiction name is Fanatic06. He works on fanfiction.net and the link is in the description to the stories.
Chapter 16, Charmander, the Stray Pokemon. The group was making great progress to Vermilion City. It had been about 2 weeks since they left Cerulean City, and needless to say, they were ready to get back to a populated area. However, they were told they still had another week until they reached the city. Ash and Serena had battled a few hobby trainers along the way to help their Pokemon grow. Ash and Serena had made sure to use their newly acquired Bulbasaur and Oddish, respectively, to test out their battle strengths. Both Pokemon had proved to be very capable in battle. Ash and Serena were happy to have them as part of the team now. "Oh, we are finally getting close to Vermilion City. It will be by the beach. I can't wait to get a nice tan," Misty commented as the group walked along the forest path. "Right. The route we are on right now intersects with Route 24, which will take us straight into Vermilion City," Brock agreed. "That's where I'm going to receive my third gym badge," Ash declared. It was then the group noticed an enormous rock right in the middle of the path, casting a huge shadow. It wasn't the rock that got the group's attention, however, it was the Pokemon that was on top of the rock. It was a Charmander. Unlike Serena's Charmander, it appeared to be a male. "Oh wow! A Charmander!" Ash exclaimed. "I remember when we were about to pick our first Pokemon at Professor Oak's lab, and I had really wanted to get a Charmander but wasn't able to." "Oh, you wanted to get the Charmander, Ash?" Serena asked him nervously. Pikachu also gave its trainer a questioning look. Ash realized he had put his foot in his mouth and rubbed the back of his neck nervously. "Ehehe. I mean, I had wanted a Charmander to begin with, but I am very happy with the way things turned out." "Don't worry, Serena. If I could do it over again, I would always let you pick Charmander so I could get Pikachu," he said. Pikachu and Serena decided that was acceptable and turned their attention back to the Charmander on the rock. "Well, Ash, this Charmander does appear to be wild, so why don't you try to capture it?" Serena asked. "Yeah," Ash agreed. He was just about to send out Pidgeotto, but Brock stopped him. "Hold on," he said. "Take a look at the flame on its tail. It looks really weak. I don't think battling it is the best idea at the moment." Ash looked at the Charmander again and saw the flame on its tail looked very small compared to normal. The Charmander was panting heavily and appeared to be very tired. "I still have some medicine we made back at Melanie's cabin. I'll see if I can give it some," Brock continued. He pulled out a small bottle of medicine from his backpack and went up to Charmander. "Hey there, Charmander. I got some medicine for you that might make you feel better," Brock said gently as he held the bottle for Charmander to take. Charmander stared at the bottle of medicine for a moment before quickly turning away. It didn't appear to trust these strangers. "If it won't take medicine, I should try to capture anyway so we can at least take it to a Pokemon Center," Ash decided. He then took out an empty Pokeball and threw it at the Charmander. The Pokemon saw the ball coming and immediately swung its fiery tail in a circular motion to knock back the Pokeball. The ball returned to Ash Ketchum's hands, and he gave it a questioning look. "I know this Charmander's weak, but it still seems strong enough to fight back. Maybe Pikachu should battle it," Ash suggested. "Maybe my water Pokemon can help," Misty tried. Brock shook his head. "I still don't think it's such a great idea. Try your Pokeball one more time, Ash," he told the raven-haired boy. Ash nodded his head and threw the Pokeball once more at Charmander. This time Charmander didn't fight back as it was sucked into the Pokeball. The group thought they had gotten the Pokemon, but it soon broke free from the Pokeball and glared at the group. "This Pokemon seems to have a lot of courage. Do you think we should have one of our Pokemon talk to it?" Ash asked. I know. We should have Charla talk to it since it's a Charmander also, Serena said as she let Charla out of its Pokeball. Okay, Charla. I'd like you to climb on top of that rock and talk to the Charmander there, Serena told it. Charla nodded and then turned to look at the Pokemon. As soon as Charla saw the Charmander on top of the rock, it got hearts in its eyes and a goofy expression on its face. Chaar, it said dreamily as it began to climb the rock. Charla, this is no time to make boyfriends. Serena said embarrassedly. Pikachu decided it should follow Charla up to the top of the rock to make sure they got the information they needed. Charla was the first to reach the rock and immediately began to converse with the other Charmander. It gave Charla a strange look before turning away in the other direction. Charla immediately got a crestfallen expression on its face and looked fit to cry. It was then Pikachu reached the top of the rock and told Charla to focus on the task. Pikachu then began to talk to the Charmander, and it seemed to receive Pikachu a little better as Pikachu wasn't trying to ask it on a date like Charla was. Once Pikachu was done, it and Charla climbed back down the rock and went to the humans. So what's the story, guys? Ash asked them. The two Pokemon then began to make various hand gestures and facial expressions to Misty and Brock's confusion. However, Ash and Serena were able to understand their Pokemon. I see. This Pokemon is already owned by a trainer, Ash deduced. And this trainer left Charmander here on this rock promising to come back for it, Serena finished. Both Pokemon nodded their heads to signal their trainers were correct. Brock sighed. If this Charmander is already owned by another trainer, there is nothing we can do for it except hope the trainer comes back soon. Judging by this Charmander's tail, it's been waiting on this rock a long time. The trainer should definitely start taking better care of it once he or she comes back, he said with disapproval. Yeah, Ash agreed. According to Brock's map, there is a Pokemon Center near here. Let's rest there. We can check here later on to make sure its trainer came back. The group agreed to the plan as they made their way to the Pokemon Center. It was about 8 o'clock in the evening right now, and the group had just finished eating supper at the Pokemon Center. Nightfall had fallen by now and a storm seemed to be coming on top of that. The group was really glad they were inside of the Pokemon Center, but they couldn't help but think about the Charmander they had encountered earlier. Ash and Brock, in particular, were worried. They were staring out the window and appeared to be deep in thought. Hey, you two. I think Charmander is just fine. There is no way it would wait around on a rock this long, Misty told them, trying to cheer them up. Ash and Brock said nothing as they continued to stare out of the window. Charmander's trainer would surely have come for it by now. No decent human being would leave their Pokemon out in the rain like that, Serena tried. I hope you're right, Ash mumbled. It was then that they overheard a group of teenage boys talking and laughing obnoxiously in another part of the Pokemon Center. One of the boys, who was wearing stylish clothes and had blue hair, had a bunch of Pokeballs set out on the table in front of him with an arrogant smirk on his face. Wow, Damien. That's an awesome collection of Pokemon you have there, one of the teenagers said. Of course. I mean, I am the greatest ever. The boy known as Damien laughed. Ash and Serena were strongly reminded of Gary Oak. I don't have any time for weak, useless Pokemon. They can rot for all I care. That's why I got rid of my Charmander, that worthless pile of trash, Damien continued. The group immediately got a glare on their face as they overheard the boy. They weren't trying to eavesdrop, but this boy was so loud and obnoxious that they couldn't help it. They took back what they thought earlier about comparing him to Gary. This boy was a million times worse than Gary. At least Gary would never call a Pokemon worthless and get rid of it. What a horrible attitude that boy has, Misty muttered as they watched Damien from afar. What did you end up doing to that Charmander you got rid of? One of the boys asked. I left on some rock, Damien said carelessly. That immediately alarmed the group. Was this the trainer of the Charmander they came across earlier? That thing is so stupid. It kept following me whenever I tried to get rid of it. It finally left me alone after I said I would come back for it. What a total loser, Damien bragged. Brock and Ash had enough. They went over to where the boy was seated, and Brock grabbed Damien by his collar and pulled him up so they were eye level. Go get your Pokemon, Brock ordered. You're pretty stupid to mess with Damien. He will crush you. One of the teenagers warned, but Ash and Brock ignored him. How could you leave it like that? We happened to come across that Charmander earlier, and it was still waiting for you. You should consider yourself lucky to have such a loyal Pokemon, Ash said angrily. Mind your own business. Damien growled. The flame on your Charmander's tail was really low when we saw it earlier. It's now even raining. If a flame on a Charmander's tail goes out, it dies, Brock said through gritted teeth. And I should care why? Damien scoffed. You're horrible, Ash yelled. You should care because you're its trainer. Not anymore. I abandoned that loser. What happens to it now isn't my responsibility, Damien said coldly. You make me sick to my stomach, Serena said as she and Misty came up behind Brock and Ash. Chuyuo, Pikachu growled as its cheeks sparked. Are you punks looking for a fight? Damien asked and narrowed his eyes. He was about to reach for a pokeball, but Nurse Joy stepped in. That's it. Break it up, everyone. I will not allow you to use your Pokemon for personal battles. It's disrespectful to both the Pokemon and their trainer, Nurse Joy scolded. Damien broke free from Brock's grasp and gave the group one final glare. Heh, if you are so worried about Charmander, you go get it. He then added with a smirk, if it's even still alive. At that, Ash and Brock were about to pounce on him, but they were held back by Serena and Misty, respectively. He isn't even worth it, Misty muttered as they watched Damien walk away with the other boys. You four shouldn't get mixed up with those guys. They have a very bad reputation, Nurse Joy told the group. I've never met someone so despicable in my life, Ash said as the girls released him and Brock. Though Paul was bad, but this guy isn't even human. Ash. Serena trailed as she put a hand on his shoulder to comfort him. I'll be fine, Serena. I'm just really angry right now that there are actually people in the world like him, Ash said. We need to hurry up and find that Charmander before it's too late. Let's go. Brock told the group as they rushed to get their rain gear. The rain was pouring very heavily as the group ran through the forest. They really hoped that the Charmander was where it was earlier so they wouldn't have to search for it. Oh, I'm getting soaked. The rain is so heavy. My raincoat isn't helping much, Misty moaned. You could have just stayed at the Pokemon Center, you know, Serena said to Misty. I've got to help a Pokemon in need, Misty said with a wink. The group knew where they were going so it only took them about 10 minutes to get to where Charmander was from the Pokemon Center. Once the group reached the place, they gasped in horror at what they saw. Charmander was huddled over and doing its best to cover itself with a large leaf. It wasn't big enough to cover its whole self however, so Charmander mainly had it covering its tail. Flame. It was very low. It wouldn't be too much longer until it was completely out. To make matters worse, a few Spearow had decided to attack and were pecking mercilessly at Charmander. Pikachu. Thundershock. Ash ordered. Pikachu immediately let loose the attack and the electricity soared through the air which effectively scared off the Spearow. The group then rushed over to Charmander. Brock and Ash took off their raincoats and placed them over Charmander. Brock's raincoat covered the main body while Ash's covered the flame on its tail. Charmander didn't resist this time when they picked it up. The group then rushed back to the Pokemon Center as fast as they could. "Come on, Charmander. You can't let your flame go out," Ash mumbled to himself. The group soon arrived back to the Pokemon Center and burst through the doors panting heavily. "Is everything okay?" Nurse Joy asked as she came rushing to the group. "No, it isn't," Brock answered. "This Charmander needs help fast." Nurse Joy looked at Charmander and gasped. "There isn't much time," she said hurriedly as she took Charmander and rushed to the emergency room. "I sure hope it's not too late," Ash said worriedly. "We've done all we can so far. We've just got to wait and trust in Nurse Joy," Serena told him. "Right," Ash agreed as the group went over to sit down on the furniture in front of the emergency room. Damien happened to pass by at that time and saw the group. "I hope you're happy," Brock muttered as he gave Damien a glare. "Your Pokemon is in critical condition because you don't care for it?" "Whatever. I'm about to get a good night's sleep, so don't bother me, or you'll regret it," Damien shrugged and continued on his way. "What a creep," Ash scowled as he clenched his fists but forced himself to relax. He really wished he could teach this guy a lesson. What Misty had said earlier was correct. Damien just wasn't worth it. Ash had no choice but to wait and hope Charmander would get better. After several hours of waiting anxiously, Nurse Joy finally stepped out of the emergency room. The group didn't waste any time to go over to her. "How is Charmander, Nurse Joy?" Brock asked. Nurse Joy paused but then smiled broadly. "Charmander was able to pull through. It should be just fine by tomorrow morning," she said. "That's great," Ash exclaimed. Nurse Joy nodded. "Yes. Since this Charmander was abandoned by its trainer, I will happily look after it for a while. I will make sure to find it a good home." "Oh, Nurse Joy. You are so kind. You are as beautiful on the inside as you are on the outside," Brock cried as he took her hands in his. The group sweat dropped. It seemed since Charmander was going to be okay, Brock had reverted back to his Nurse Joy syndrome. "Oh. Heh. Thank you," Nurse Joy said nervously. "Perhaps we can get together for breakfast tomorrow and, yow." Brock started, but didn't finish as Misty had reached out to drag him away by the ear. "You're acting like a goofball, Brock. Control yourself," Misty said in aggravation. Brock said nothing as he was pulled along. He had never actually had someone drag him away like that before. It surprised him greatly. Ash, Serena, and Pikachu were surprised as well. It looked like they could count on Misty to keep Brock under control. The next morning, the group had decided to check to see if Charmander was feeling any better. They were allowed by Nurse Joy to enter the emergency room, and what they saw shocked them. Charmander was indeed much healthier. The bright, burning flame on its tail proved that, but it seemed to be trying to escape the room. "Charmander? Why are you trying to escape?" Ash asked it in confusion. Charmander turned away from the window it was about to hop out of and gave the group a guilty look. "You were going back to the rock to wait for Damien, weren't you?" Brock figured. Charmander nodded its head and turned back towards the window. "Charmander. I hate to tell you this, but I don't think Damien is coming back for you," Ash told it. "Ash!" Misty scolded. "Charmander has the right to know the truth," Ash defended. "It's natural that you still feel loyal to Damien. It's just we happened to hear him talking about you last night. It didn't sound like he had any intention of coming to get you. I just don't want you to go back to the rock and wind up sick again," Brock muttered softly. "It's your decision to make, Charmander. Just keep in mind what we told you," Ash said again. Charmander hesitated for a little bit. It looked back towards the window and then back at the group. It certainly knew the strangers in front of it cared. They had proven that. much by saving its life last night. Charmander wished it could say the same of its current trainer or ex-trainer. It wasn't sure which. Charmander couldn't recall one time when Damien had said a kind word to it. He was always calling it weak, stupid, or pathetic when it would lose a battle. Even if Charmander would win a battle, Damien never told it that. It did a good job. I think you are a great Pokemon, Charmander. Any trainer would be lucky to have you, Ash continued. Why don't you show us how powerful you are? That will show Damien. Pikachu then went over to Charmander and told it how Ash was really sincere with the things he said. Charmander took one last look at the window before turning around and nodding towards the group. Everyone was now in front of the Pokemon Center. They had set up various targets, both still and moving ones for Charmander's accuracy. Then they set up several dummies to test Charmander's strength. Once they were done, Ash smiled at the Pokemon. Charla also happened to be watching at the moment so it could learn from this Charmander. This will prove that you are just as powerful a Pokemon as any, Ash told it. Don't let anyone tell you different. Charmander nodded as it prepared to aim at the various targets. Can you use Flamethrower and Ember? Ash asked the Pokemon, to which it nodded in response. I would like Charla to see this as well, Serena said as she sent out her Pokemon. Alright, Charmander. Go ahead when you're ready. Ash told it. Charmander nodded and used various fire attacks to destroy the targets. It had perfect accuracy on both the moving and non-moving ones. Charla saw this and got hearts in its eyes again. This Charmander was so strong, and cute, too. It looks like Charla has a little crush on that Charmander, Misty whispered to Brock. Just like its trainer has a crush on Ash, Brock whispered back but wasn't heard by Ash or Serena. Let's see your strength next, Charmander. Ash said. Use any attack you can and destroy those dummies. Charmander obeyed and used a barrage of attacks on the dummies ranging from fire attacks to metal claws and scratch attacks. It wasn't long before all of the dummies were in pieces. That was perfect, Charmander. Ash praised. You were super, Charmander. Brock added. We knew you were a powerful Pokemon. Don't ever forget that. Charla went over to congratulate the Charmander as well with a small blush on its face. Charmander rubbed the back of its neck nervously and blushed as well. Hey, Charmander. If you'd like, you can come along with us. I'd love to have a great Pokemon like you, Ash suggested. You would be a great trainer for Charmander, Ash. You did keep the flame on its tail lit while we were running through the rain, after all, Brock agreed. Charmander seemed to be thinking it over, but before it could give its answer, everyone heard a voice behind them. Hey there, Charmander. I've been looking for you, the voice said. They spun around to find none other than Damien standing there, who surprisingly had a smile on his face. It looked forced to the group, however. What do you want, Damien? Brock asked in an unfriendly tone. I'm here to get Charmander back just like I promised, Damien replied. The group let out collective gasp. What? They all exclaimed. It's true. Let's go, Charmander, Damien said. Hold on a second. What is with the sudden change? Last night you didn't even care if Charmander died, Ash asked suspiciously. That was before I saw what it could do this morning. I was watching you guys from the window of the Pokemon Center. Charmander is a lot better than I thought, so I will be taking it back now, Damien replied. So you're only taking it back because you think it's strong now and not because you're sorry for what you did? Ash exclaimed in disbelief. That's right. I'm glad I did leave it on that rock, too. If I hadn't, I wouldn't have ran into you guys who helped train it for me, so I don't have to, Damien confirmed. At this, Charmander hung its head in sadness. You see, Charmander. This guy only wants you so he can win battles. He doesn't care about your well-being at all. Damien just freely admitted that he left you to die last night. Brock told it. You aren't trying to keep me from getting back my Pokemon, are you? Damien asked dangerously, now losing the smile on his face. You don't deserve a great Pokemon like Charmander. Ash shouted. Charmander is my Pokemon. I'm the one who caught it. You can't keep it from me. Damien retorted. It's not your Pokemon anymore since you abandoned it. Ash yelled. I'm now coming back for it. If you even think about taking what's mine from me, I'll have you arrested for Pokemon thievery. Damien argued. We could have you arrested for Pokemon abuse in return. Ash fired back. Heh. It seems the only way we are going to settle this is through a Pokemon battle. If I win, I keep Charmander. If you win, you keep it. Damien said as he pulled out a Pokeball. You're on. Ash yelled with determination. Machoke. I choose you. Damien hollered as he sent out a large, purple, muscular Pokemon. Whoa. A Machoke, Ash muttered as he and Serena pulled out their Pokédexes. Machoke. The superpower Pokemon and the evolved form of Machop. Machoke is so strong it must wear a power-safe belt to control itself, the Pokédexes piped up. So it's a fighting type. I know who to use against it, Ash said. He was just about to reach for Pidgeotto's Pokeball, but to his and everyone else's surprise, Charmander stepped out in front of Ash. You want to battle Damien, Charmander? Ash asked in confusion. Char. It confirmed and nodded its head. You're battling against me? Your own trainer? I'll make you regret that decision. Damien growled menacingly. Come on, Ash. Beat this creep. Serena yelled. Charmander. Charla agreed. Brock then walked between Ash and Damien. I'll be the judge. This is a battle for ownership of Charmander. There will be no time limit. Begin. He shouted. Machoke. Use Karate Chop. Damien called. Quick, Charmander. Smoke screen. Ash countered. Charmander let loose a lot of smoke from its mouth so Machoke couldn't see anything. Before it knew what hit it, Machoke felt a painful slap go across its face. Charmander had slapped it with its fiery tail. Use foresight to locate Charmander. Damien ordered. Machoke's eyes began to glow so it could now see Charmander inside the smoke screen. Use flamethrower, Charmander. Ash ordered. Charmander was about to run up to get a close-range attack, but Damien was ready. Use Vital Throw, Machoke. He yelled. Charmander used Flamethrower which caused Machoke to yell in pain, but it grabbed Charmander before it could get away. It then hurled Charmander into the ground as hard as it could. The group cringed as they saw Charmander hit the grass at high speed. That must have really hurt. Can you stand, Charmander? Ash asked worriedly. Charmander nodded and slowly got back up to its feet. Use submission. Damien ordered. Machoke then grabbed Charmander and got in a submission hold causing Charmander to yell out in pain and struggle to break free, but Machoke was too strong. Come on, activate, Ash said to himself. If what Charla has taught him in the past was true, Charmander's special ability, Blaze, should take effect soon. Then he could win. Machoke continued to incapacitate Charmander. Charmander was trying to shoot various embers and flamethrowers at Machoke, but they kept missing due to the angle it was at. It really didn't want to go back to this cruel trainer so it had to win. Why isn't it activating? Ash thought worriedly. Does this Charmander have that ability? Everyone else in the group seemed to be wondering the same thing as they stared worriedly at Charmander. At this rate, Charmander was in big trouble. Then to Ash's great relief, Charmander's tail flame increased substantially. Machoke saw this and dropped Charmander onto the ground as its tail was beginning to burn it. "Oh no!" Damien shouted in horror. "Oh yes!" Ash shouted back. "Charmander! Use flamethrower!" Charmander then took a deep breath and let out a massive burst of fire. It completely engulfed Machoke and even burned Damien as well. Machoke then fell to the ground in defeat, charred completely black and let out a puff of smoke. Machoke is unable to battle. Charmander is the winner. Brock said happily. "You did it, Charmander." Ash praised as he and Pikachu ran up to it to give it a high five. "Chaar," Charla said as it watched Charmander with a blush on its face. That Charmander was so strong. "Oh yeah!" Damien suddenly called out. "I've decided to take Charmander back regardless if I won or lost, so hand it over." "No way. I won, and Charmander wants to stay with me," Ash told him with a glare. "Who cares?" Damien retorted hotly as he pulled out another Pokeball. "Ash beat you fair and square, you jerk. Don't cheat." Serena yelled at him. "No one asked you, you slut." Damien hollered back. "That did it?" Ash had really had enough of this guy. Ash could honestly say that Damien was the first person he truly hated. The way he acted. How he treated Charmander like garbage and left it die. How he thought of Pokemon as nothing but tools used for battle. Now, to top it off, he just completely insulted Serena. He had gone too far. Without warning, Ash ran up to Damien and punched him as hard as he could right in the middle of the face. Damien was knocked off his feet and hit ground hard. He then felt around his face. His nose was bleeding profusely and was badly swollen. It wasn't broken, but it still hurt. The group, especially Serena, looked at Ash in surprise. They had never seen Ash lose his cool like that before. Damien stared up in hatred at Ash and jumped to his feet. "You hurt me, you little piece of crap. I swear you haven't seen the last of me. I'll make you pay one of these days," he shouted. He then turned around and ran off. Ash glared back until Damien was completely out of view. He then took a deep breath and let out a sigh. He turned back around to see all of his friends staring at him. "Sorry about that. It's just, when Damien called Serena, you know, what he called her, something inside of me just snapped. I don't think I've ever been that angry in my entire life," Ash said as he hung his head. Brock, Misty, Pikachu, and Charmander came up to him. "Hey, Ash. It's okay. To tell you the truth, I would have done the same thing if he had insulted someone I was close to." "He deserved it," Brock reassured him. "He really had it coming," Misty added. Ash then looked at Pikachu and Charmander next. They both made gestures that they were going to attack Damien themselves if Ash hadn't acted first. He then saw Serena going toward him. "Ash. Thanks for standing up for me like that," Serena said gratefully. "There aren't any thanks necessary," Ash told her. "I'm not going to let some jerk trash talk you like that." What he said was completely uncalled for and unacceptable. Serena blushed. "I guess I can always count on you to be there for me, in that case." To her surprise, Ash turned a little red in return. "Of course. I'll never let you down. You can always count on me," he said firmly despite his redness. "Aw. He, you two are so close. I'm almost jealous," Misty giggled. "Indeed," Brock said while nodding. He then winked at Ash. "Remember what I told you in the battle chateau?" "Kn knock it off, guys," Ash mumbled as he turned away. He hadn't recalled ever being embarrassed like this around Serena before. "Oh yeah. Don't forget. We have to officially welcome Charmander to the team," Serena reminded Ash, trying to change the subject. "Definitely. Welcome to the group, Charmander." Ash said happily as he smiled down at it and pulled out a spare pokeball. Char. It replied enthusiastically and leaped into Ash's pokeball to allow itself to be captured. Ash then stared at the pokeball in his hands. Don't you worry, Charmander. I'll make sure to treat you how you deserve be treated, he told it. Charla then came up to Ash and signaled it wanted Ash to release Charmander from the pokeball. Ash did so, and once Charmander was out, Charla immediately went up to it and whispered something in its ear. Nobody knew what it was saying, but Ash's Charmander got a nervous expression on its face while Charla blushed. Like Pokemon, like trainers, Brock whispered to Misty, who nodded in response. Well, guys, what are we waiting for? Vermilion City is just a few days away. Ash said enthusiastically. All right. Let's go. Serena agreed. Ash and Serena, followed by Pikachu, Charla, and Charmander, took off running down the path. Those guys are too enthusiastic, Misty said as she began running with Brock to catch up. Hey. It gets us to our destinations faster, Brock shrugged. Unbeknownst to them, Damien hadn't completely left yet. He was hiding behind the trees as he watched the group run by down the path. He had a tissue pressed up against his nose to stop the bleeding. How dare those little punks humiliate me and take Charmander, he mumbled to himself. We'll meet again. They'll be sorry they ever crossed me. Damien then turned to go off his own way but bumped into two taller people. Hey. Watch where you're going. Damien snarled as he took in the two people's appearances. One was a man with blue hair, and the other was a woman with red hair. They both wore white uniforms with a huge red R in the middle. There was also a Meowth standing next to them. Hello. My name is Jesse, that's James, and that's Meowth. We happened to see your confrontation with those kids just now, Jessie began as she leered at Damien. It turns out we hate them just as much as you do. You also seem to be a powerful trainer. If you're interested, we have a proposition for you, James smiled evilly. Chapter 17, The Rogue Squirtle. Finally. Civilization. Misty cried. After a whole month of traveling in the woods with only a couple of small villages along the way, the group had finally arrived in Vermilion City. Needless to say, Ash was very eager to obtain this third badge at the Vermilion Gym from here. While there wasn't a battle chateau for Serena to take part of here, she would still be training and was always happy to support Ash in his gym battles. Yes. The first order of business is getting my third badge. Ash declared while pointing to the sky, Pikachu following his gesture. Hold on, Ash. We've been away from the city for a month. Can't we at least rest and enjoy the city for once? The gym will still be there tomorrow, Misty said in an annoyed tone. I'm going to agree with Misty on this one, Ash. Vermilion City is on the beach after all. Let's relax and enjoy the ocean, and the beautiful girls, Brock finished while turning red. Ash turned to Serena. How do you feel about all this, Serena? He asked. Serena smiled that Ash was including her by asking her opinion as well. Well, being on the beach would be really nice, she said while blushing. Ash sighed but then smiled. All right. You guys win. Last one to the beach is the rotten egg. He shouted as he and Pikachu took off running. No fair. Misty yelled as she and the others followed him. While the group was running through the busy streets of Vermilion City, they realized that it would probably faster to take a shortcut. They spotted an alleyway off to the side and decided to cut through there. This alleyway is kind of dark and spooky, Misty commented as they made their way through it. Come on, Misty. You aren't afraid, are you? The worst thing that is going to be back here is a Rattata or Meowth in a trash can. It's nothing we haven't seen before, Ash told her. But what about muggers? Misty asked worriedly. We have our Pokemon, Misty, Brock answered this time. We'll be fine. The group then turned a corner in the alley and was surprised at what they saw. It was a Squirtle that was spray painting various graffiti on the alley walls. This Squirtle seemed a little different than the ones that the group saw in the past. It had mischievous smirk on its face and was wearing sunglasses. The Squirtle clearly knew it was doing wrong. Hey! What do you think you're doing? Ash asked it in surprise. The Squirtle turned and gave the group a questioning look. Who did they think they were by telling it what to do? It didn't trust humans at all after being abandoned by its trainer. It believed it had every right to vandalize their property after what it went through. You can't just go spray painting anywhere you please, Ash continued. The Squirtle didn't listen, however, and sprayed Ash right in the face with a water gun attack. It then laughed when it saw Ash's wet state. Ash was drenched and got an angry expression on his face. Hey! What did you do that for? He asked angrily. Pikachu then jumped in front of Squirtle and gave it an angry expression as well, ready to protect its trainer if necessary. Pikachu and the Squirtle continued to glare at each other in a standoff for a good 30 seconds before the group heard sirens blaring. As soon as the Squirtle heard the sirens, it got a panicked expression on its face and took off, leaving the can of spray paint behind. Serena went over to pick up the can of spray paint to throw it away just as Officer Jenny turned the corner on her motorcycle. Hold it! Officer Jenny ordered. We've had reports of someone vandalizing the buildings in the city. It seems I've caught the culprits red-handed. You're even still holding the spray paint can. Serena saw she was holding the can of spray paint and immediately threw it away while turning red. I didn't do this, she cried in alarm. Officer Jenny gave her a hard glare. Don't lie to a police officer, young lady. We're telling you the truth, Officer Jenny, Ash tried to defend. It was a Squirtle that did this. We were just passing through this alley on the way to the beach. It ran away when it heard your sirens. Officer Jenny seemed to be in thought. Was this Squirtle wearing a pair of sunglasses? She asked. It was, actually. Ash confirmed. Do you know anything about it? Everyone in Vermilion City knows about that Squirtle. It was abandoned by its trainer a while back. It was so upset by how the person just threw it out like that, so it has no respect at all for people or their property. All it ever wants to do is play pranks on people or steal things, Officer Jenny told them. Why doesn't the gym leader of the city do anything about it? Serena asked. The gym leader prefers not to worry himself with things like this. Personally, he isn't worried about a rogue Squirtle in the city despite it terrorizing everyone, said Officer Jenny. He sounds lazy if you ask me, Misty muttered. Oh, he actually isn't lazy at all. He is an army lieutenant and war hero. His name is Lt. Surge. With all of the wars and battles he has seen in his lifetime, he considers handling a rogue Squirtle beneath him, Officer Jenny explained. Oh, I see, Misty realized. Since Lt. Surge doesn't want to get involved, it's up to the Vermilion City Police Force, but that Squirtle is so evasive we aren't ever able to catch it. It's always gone by the time we arrive on the scene, Officer Jenny said. She then got a sad look on her face. I think deep down, all that Squirtle really wants is a loving trainer. Officer Jenny then got on her motorcycle and turned towards the group. I'm sorry of accusing you guys. The only advice I can offer is to try to stay clear of that Squirtle while you are in Vermilion City. She then drove off down the alley and turned a corner, disappearing from view. The group stared at the beautiful beach in front of them. They could even see the enormous ship, the Saint Anne, at the harbor in the distance. It had been a really long time since either of them had been to the beach. Vermilion City was known for its awesome beaches, and if the clean, sparkling waters were any indication, it was true. The group found a nearby beach house and changed into their swimsuits there. Then they were ready to have some fun. Hey, why should we be the only ones to have fun? Let's send out our Pokemon also. Ash suggested. Great idea. Serena agreed. The group then sent out their Pokemon, and everyone went off to do their various activities. Ash and Serena immediately went towards the water to swim there. Misty brought out a towel and lay it underneath an umbrella to take a nice nap, and Brock began to look at all of the pretty girls in swimsuits, discreetly of course. It was then Brock was confronted by two Gangaro girls. Like, congratulations. You've won 4 tickets to the party at the St. Anne cruise ship. One said excitedly. I won a cruise. Brock asked skeptically. Not the cruise itself, but you're still invited to come to the party before it departs. It's going to be so cool. The other one answered while jumping up and down. How did I win? I don't remember entering a drawing for anything, Brock asked in a confused tone. We're just giving away tickets to awesome Pokemon trainers such as yourselves. The first one exclaimed. Cool, huh? The second one added. In that case, I'll take them. Thank you, Brock said appreciatively. The party starts in an hour. See you there. The first one giddily said. Cool. The second one yelled again. Wait until I tell the other guys about this. Brock smiled to himself. Serena was swimming through the water right now and having a blast. The weather was perfect right now. There wasn't a cloud in the sky and the temperature was just right. She was about to turn towards Ash to ask him something, but he had disappeared. Ash? Serena asked, but there was no response. She began looking in all directions around her, but didn't find him anywhere. Ash? Serena called again, but then felt something grab her ankle. Serena let out a shriek, and the culprit revealed itself to be none other than Ash, who was laughing. Ha 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 ha. That was great. Ash said while laughing. Serena got a mock angry look on her face. Hey. I was starting to get worried about you, and then you go and pull something like that? You're going to get it? First you have to catch me. Ash teased. Serena then leaped at Ash, which knocked him back under the water. They then began to play wrestle each other in the water. They took turns dunking and splashing each other. And occasionally tackling the other. Before either of them knew it, they their arms around each other in tight bear hug, trying to throw the other underwater first. That's when Ash realized the position they were in. Serena? Ash questioned, but she didn't move from the embrace. Serena, are you going to let me go? Ash asked again. He was becoming pretty embarrassed. If he didn't know better, he could have sworn he heard Serena give a sigh of disappointment before letting go. Are you ready to head back to the shore? There seems to be a nice game of volleyball going on there. Maybe we can jump in, Serena suggested. Sure, Ash agreed, wondering what the sudden change in her attitude was about. It was then they felt movement below the water's surface, and to their surprise, a Squirtle with sunglasses popped its head out of the water. Whoa! I think that's the Squirtle from earlier. Ash realized. The Squirtle gave a smirk before shooting its water gun in Ash's face again. How was it that he always seemed to get the water gun? Ash was already wet, so it didn't bother him like last time, but that didn't change the fact the Squirtle was trying to aggravate him. You seem to be asking for a battle. Ash said angrily to it. The Squirtle ignored that threat and water gunned Ash's face again. Now he was getting pretty annoyed. If you're so cocky, I dare you to face me in a Pokemon battle. Meet me up at the shoreline, and then we will see how tough you are. Ash shouted. The Squirtle rolled its eyes from behind its sunglasses and began to swim back towards the shoreline. Ash and Serena followed it. As they approached the shore, they spotted Brock, who was waving his arms frantically at them, signaling them to come over. He looked really excited. "Hey guys," he called once they reached them. "I just won 4 tickets to the party that's going to take place on the Saint Anne in an hour. I mean, they aren't tickets for the cruise. But we can still attend the party." "When and where did you enter a drawing for a party?" Serena asked him curiously. "I received it from those 2 Gangaro girls over there," he said, pointing behind him, "but there was nobody there." That's strange. Where did they go?" Brock wondered. "Well, I guess it doesn't matter. If you won, you won." "I say we don't let these tickets go to waste," Ash said. "All right. Let's go get Misty and our Pokemon and have some fun at the party." Brock cheered. "Oh right. The Squirtle." Ash remembered. He looked around, but it had already disappeared. "Oh wow. This ship is even bigger up close." Serena exclaimed, amazed. "Brock, are you positive that this is the ship you won tickets to?" Ash asked, equally amazed. "I'm positive. I guess I just got really lucky," Brock told them. He then got a dreamy expression on his face. "I hope there are a lot of pretty girls on board." The group rolled their eyes at that remark. "I can't wait to get on that cruise liner. I bet it's so beautiful." "I wonder if there is a dance at the party," Serena said while her eyes sparkled. She could picture it now. She and Ash are dancing together to a slow song. It would be so romantic. Ash would pull her gently a little closer to him. There would be a beautiful sunset on the deck of the ship. They would lean in a little closer, then even closer. Their lips would only be inches apart. And then, "Serena, are you coming or not?" Ash called out to her. Serena snapped out of her thoughts and saw the group was already some distance ahead of her. "Coming," she said as she ran to catch up with them. Meanwhile, the 2 Gangaro girls had walked into a nearby warehouse where a large computer was at the edge of the room. They then changed out of their clothes and into their regular white uniforms. It was Team Rocket. "So were all of the tickets given away?" Meowth asked as he stepped out of his hiding place. "They were," Jessie answered. "You aren't going to believe who we gave away 4 of those tickets to. It was that squinty-eyed friend of the twerp with the Pikachu. He will undoubtedly share it with the others. This our perfect chance for revenge against them, once and for all." "Sounds good to Meowth." Meowth agreed. "Let's go ahead and report to the boss," James said as he pressed a button in front of the computer. The large screen turned on and a man cast in shadows appeared. It was hard to make out his face, but he seemed to be wearing an orange suit. He was sitting behind a large desk and had a Persian next to him. "Is the plan set?" the man asked. His voice was very deep and dark sounding. "It is, sir. We've given away all of the tickets as you requested," Jessie replied. "Excellent. You 3 have failed me the last few times at MT Moon and the Pokemon Center in Viridian City. Hopefully this time, you will be able to come through," the boss said. "But boss, the only reason we failed at the missions was because of this brat who carries around a Pikachu and his friends," James complained. He immediately realized that this was not the right thing to say. "You idiots. You're telling me you're letting my plans be foiled by a bunch of children? Are you that incompetent? Do I have to threaten to demote you to grunts to motivate you?" the boss shouted as he slammed his fist on his desk. "Way to go, Jimmy," Meowth muttered. Trying to make up for James' mistake, Jessie spoke up. "Sir, we won't fail you again. All of the rocket grunts are in place on the ship. Failure will be out of the question. It better be. I will not accept failure for much longer. If you can't complete my missions, I will simply find someone else who can. Perhaps Cassidy and Butch can handle the missions better," the dark man said. No. Anyone but them. Jessie said frantically. She, James, and Meowth hated those two with a passion. Then make sure this mission doesn't fail. The boss yelled again. Aye, sir. The trio saluted. With that, the screen was turned off. Wow. With how fancily everyone is dressed right now, I kind of feel out of place in my normal clothes right now, Ash commented as they looked around the ship. So Brock, was this just supposed to be a Pokemon trainer party? Are there going to be things like dances and a bunch of food? All I see are people standing around talking to each other or showing off their Pokemon, Misty stated. You know what? I'm not entirely sure. Those two girls didn't give me a lot of details about the party. They just told me it was for Pokemon trainers only, Brock answered. Then what are we supposed to do here? I mean, there are some tables with food, but that's it, Serena sighed. She was slightly disappointed that there didn't appear to be some sort of special event that was going to take place. Psst. Hey. You four. Over here. A man whispered in a foreign accent. The group turned to see a short man with a thin mustache and short brown hair. He was wearing a white button shirt and what looked like a white headband. Next to him in a fish tank was a medium-sized fish with heavy reddish-orange scales. It had vacant eyes and long, tan barbels. Have I got a deal for you? The man continued once the group went over to him. I'll let you have this swell Magikarp for just $30. Did you know that a Magikarp lays a million eggs at a time? Each of those million Magikarp lays a million more eggs. If you sell each of these Magikarp, you will have tons of money. The group gave the man a deadpan expression. They knew that everything he was telling them was completely bogus. He must be a con man. Ash was about to refuse, but to his surprise, Misty spoke up. I'll take it. She exclaimed. What? Everyone else asked her in surprise. It's because a Magikarp evolves into a Gyarados, Misty explained. You see, I'm training to be the best water-type Pokemon trainer. I have to be able to master all of them, even the frightening Gyarados. Why not just fish for a Magikarp in a nearby lake? This isn't exactly a rare Pokemon we are talking about, Ash wondered. It's because I have a fear of Gyarados. They really scare me, which always deters me from fishing for one. If I pass up this opportunity, I may never get the motivation again to get one, Misty said. If you say so, Ash sighed. Misty turned back to the salesman. All right. I'll take it for $30 even. She declared. Hee. I can tell you are going to be a very rich girl. The man laughed as he picked up the Magikarp from the tank and put it in a pokeball. Cut the garbage. I'm not doing this to become rich, Misty told him as she took the pokeball and handed him $30. Yes, well, thank you for buying, and I don't give refunds. The man said hurriedly as he packed up and sped away. That's fine. The $30 will be worth it once this Magikarp becomes a Gyarados, Misty said as she and the group walked away. They then heard a commotion coming from the food tables. They ran over to see what was going on and saw the Squirtle with sunglasses on top of one of the tables. It was throwing food at everyone around it. How did that Squirtle sneak onto the ship undetected? Hey, you! What do you think you're doing? Ash asked angrily. The Squirtle turned towards Ash and gave a smirk again. It then began to throw food at only Ash. Did that thing have some kind of vendetta against him? Pikachu snickered once it saw Ash had food thrown in his face, but then the Squirtle threw some at its face also. Pikachu then got an angry expression and sparked its cheeks. Grr, I'll show you. Ash yelled as he lunged for it. The Squirtle jumped out of the way and took off out of the room and down one of the hallways. You aren't getting away from me this time. Ash shouted as he and Pikachu ran after it. Wait up! Serena called as she followed Ash. Should we go with them? Misty asked Brock. Brock shook his head. Nah. They'll be back in a little bit. I say we just wait here. Meanwhile, Jesse, James, and Meowth, who were disguised as staff members, received a beep on a device kept on their belts. They gave a smirk to each other. That was their signal. It was time to carry out the plan to steal everyone's Pokémon on the ship. The trio then threw off their uniforms to reveal their traditional Team Rocket uniform and jumped into the middle of the main room where everyone was gathered. The other disguised Rocket members threw off their uniforms as well and closed off all of the doors that led out of the room to prevent escape. Jesse, James, and Meowth then began to recite their motto. To protect the world from devastation. To unite all people within our nation. To denounce the evils of truth and love. To extend our reach to the stars above. Jesse and James. Team Rocket blasts off at the speed of light. Surrender now or prepare to fight? Meowth. That's right. It's Team Rocket. Misty and Brock gasped. And now, we shall proceed to steal all of your Pokémon. Jessie announced as she and all of the other Rocket members pulled out vacuums. Not everyone had been captured inside of the room, however. Ash, Pikachu, and Serena were still chasing the Squirtle down the hallway. It had finally reached a dead end, and the Squirtle stopped and turned around to face Ash, Serena, and Pikachu. It was ready to battle if necessary. What is with you? Ash yelled at Squirtle once they cornered it. The Squirtle grimaced and water-gunned Ash's face again. Ash was about to shout again, but Serena put her hand on his shoulder to comfort him. Relax, Ash. Shouting at Squirtle isn't going to do any good. You're better than this, she told him. Ash realized she was right and took a deep breath. He then walked up slowly to Squirtle and knelt down to be eye level with it. The Squirtle took a step back and made a defensive stance. Hey, Squirtle. I just wanted to let you know that you don't have to keep playing mean pranks on people. I'm sure you are destined for greater things than this, Ash said. Squirtle didn't say anything in response and continued to give Ash a hard stare. Taking that as a good sign to continue, Ash went on. I know it probably hurts that you were abandoned by your trainer, but that doesn't mean all humans are like that. The Squirtle frowned and turned away from Ash. It didn't believe him. Ash sighed. If you don't believe me, then perhaps you will believe fellow Pokémon. I just happen to have a Charmander with me that was abandoned by its trainer. My Pikachu also has had rough instances with people in the past, he tried. This got Squirtle's attention. It then turned around, got a curious expression on its face. It's true. They can tell you themselves, Ash told Squirtle as he sent out his Charmander. Pikachu and Charmander then went over with Squirtle and began to talk to it. Ash and Serena watched the Pokémon converse and were wondering what they were saying, but they could get a good idea by the expressions and gestures the Pokémon were making. Finally, Squirtle turned towards Ash and got a guilty expression on its face. Squirtle squirt, it said apologetically. It's okay, Squirtle. I just want you to know that I know there is a trainer out there who will take great care of you one day. You will be just fine. I promise, Ash said. That was well done, Ash, Serena smiled. It was Pikachu and Charmander who did most of the talking, Ash replied while gesturing to them. He then turned to Squirtle. What do you say we return to the party and have fun? The Squirtle seemed to think for a moment before nodding. Squirtle, it replied. Once Ash, Serena, Pikachu, and Squirtle made it back to the doorway that led to the main hall, they found it locked. That's weird, Ash said more to himself than the others as he began to yank on the door, trying to get it open. It was then they heard what sounded like a lot of commotion going on inside, but could pick up what some voices were saying. "All right. Team Rocket has taken over this ship. Hand over all your Pokemon right now if you don't want to get hurt," they heard one say. "And don't even think about calling for the police to come help." Another voice said. "We've rigged the ship with a bomb that's in the engine room. The second any of you try to get help, we will blow this ship to pieces with all of you still on board." Ash heard a collective gasp through the doors. He then turned to Serena. "This looks bad with Team Rocket here. It looks like we are the only ones who weren't captured. We've got to save these people, but our first priority should be locating the bomb to disarm it." "Right. I built a model of this ship once, so I know the blueprints. I can lead us to the engine room," Serena agreed as she, Ash, and Pikachu took off down the hallway as fast as they could. They then heard footsteps behind them and noticed the Squirtle was following as well. "You want to help, Squirtle?" Ash asked. "Squirtle," it replied while nodding its head. "Thanks. Let's go," Ash said as the four resumed running towards the engine room. As the group was making their way to the engine room, they rounded a corner and were met by two rocket grunts guarding the passageway. They attempted to hide, but the rocket grunts were too quick for them. "Hey! Someone broke loose for the main room. I'll call for help, and you get their Pokemon," one grunt said to his partner. "I don't think so. Pikachu! Thundershock!" Ash called. Pikachu let out a mighty electric attack which shocked the grunts into unconsciousness. The group then ran past the rocket members, down the steps, and into the engine room. The engine room looked like a regular maze. There were many different walkways and gears all over the place. They weren't expecting it to be this big, but then again, this was a very large ship they were in. "All right. We need to find that bomb fast. Let's go," Ash said as he turned to the rest, but found one was missing. "Hey, where's Squirtle? It didn't run away, did it?" "I thought we had reached it," Ash said in a sad tone. Serena gave Ash a sympathetic look. "You did all you could for it, Ash. If Squirtle still doesn't trust humans, it's not your fault." "I know. I just wonder what's going to happen to it," Ash trailed. He then sighed. "I hate to say it, but we'll have to worry about Squirtle later. We need to find that bomb. It will probably be in the back part of the room," Serena said. "Let's go there." After running through the maze that was the engine room, the group rounded a corner and spotted the bomb at the very back, just as Serena had predicted. They then made a mad dash towards it, but someone stepped in their way before they could reach it, and it was someone Ash, Serena, and Pikachu were completely not expecting. "Damien!" they exclaimed, completely dumbfounded. Back in the main room, the rocket grunts were going to each person one by one to take their Pokeballs. If the person refused, Team Rocket simply reminded them of the bomb threat or used their vacuums to forcefully suck the Pokeballs from the trainers. As bad luck would have it, Misty and Brock had to have Jessie, James, and Meowth that were the ones to take their Pokemon. Well, it looks like we win this time. I'd like to see you twerps get out of this one, Jessie said with a smug look. You will now hand over your Pokemon. We are in such a good mood today, we won't hurt you if you hand them over immediately, James told them. Misty and Brock said nothing as they reluctantly handed over their Pokeballs. They knew Team Rocket was right. They were dead if they tried to resist. They could only hope Ash and Serena hadn't befallen the same fate. Well, look who it is, Damien smirked. Damien! What the heck are you doing with Team Rocket? Ash exclaimed. Heh heh. After you punks humiliated me, I came across two people named Jesse and James who hate you just as much as me. They promised I could have my revenge against you if I joined Team Rocket, not to mention they told me I could achieve great things by joining their gang. It sounded like a good deal, Damien explained. Just when I thought you couldn't sink any lower, Ash scowled. Chuyu, Pikachu growled while sparking its cheeks. Shut up. I told you that you would regret messing with me, and now it's payback time. You will start by giving me your Pokemon. You still owe me Charmander, after all, Damien said. We'll never give any of our Pokemon to you. Ash yelled. That's unfortunate because I'll have to hurt you if you don't, Damien said in a dark tone as he reached for one of his Pokeballs. We'll just beat you like last time. Go Pikachu! Ash told the rodent. Pikachu ran forward to attack, but Damien held up a device in his other hand which immediately made everyone else stop in their tracks. It was the detonator to the bomb. I wouldn't make any hasty movements if I were you, Damien smirked. You wouldn't want me to accidentally press this button and blow all of us up, would you? You're bluffing, Ash breathed in a heavy tone. If you detonate that bomb, it will kill you, too. I think not, Damien replied. I happen to have a device to help me and my comrades get away just in time before the ship explodes. The same can't be said for you and the party guests. You're despicable, Serena growled. You can call me what you like, but that doesn't change the fact that I have the upper hand here. If you don't give me your Pokemon immediately, I will order all of my Pokemon to crush you too, Damien replied. Ash and Serena hesitated. There was absolutely nothing they could do right now. Hurry up, Damien urged. If I don't have all of your Pokemon in my possession by the time I count to 10, I'm going to take them by force and detonate the bomb, anyway. You wouldn't. Ash and Serena gasped. I would, especially to you punks. Damien yelled back. He then smirked again. Perhaps whenever I take back Charmander, I'm going to torture it a little bit with my other Pokemon. That will teach it to defy the great Damien. Ash and Serena felt tears burn their eyes. They were told there was always at least some good in everyone, but Damien had certainly proved them wrong. Damien then began to slowly count to 10. When he saw Ash and Serena still weren't moving, he began to count louder for emphasis. Serena and Pikachu frantically looked at Ash to see if he had some sort of idea, but he was at a complete loss at what to do. It looked like this was the end, and there was nothing Ash could do about it unless he gave up his Pokemon to this crook. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Ash, Serena, and Pikachu saw a small turtle shell spiraling towards Damien from behind him. Damien was too occupied with who was in front of him to hear or notice the object coming closer to his head. The shell clonked Damien on the back of his head and rebounded onto the ground. Damien got a dazed look on his face and fell forward onto the floor, knocked out. Ash, Serena, and Pikachu looked in amazement at the turtle shell on the ground. The shell began to stir, and the Pokemon that came out was none other than Squirtle. Squirtle! Ash and Serena exclaimed in happiness. Pie Pikachu! Pikachu exclaimed with an equal amount of excitement. Squirtle! The turtle Pokemon replied, giving them a thumbs up. You saved us. Thank you. We thought you had left, but you showed us you really care, Ash said gratefully. The Squirtle smiled and nodded its head. Now we just need to figure out how to defuse this bomb. There has to be a disarm switch on it somewhere, Serena said as went over to the small device and began to search around it. We have to find it quickly before Team Rocket gets away, Ash said urgently. I know, Serena replied as she continued to look, but couldn't find anything. It's no good. It looks like we have to cut the wire. My Bulbasaur can handle that, Ash said as he released his Pokemon. Bulbasaur! The Pokemon cried as it looked at its trainer expectantly. Use your razor leaf to snap the wires on the bomb. Just be careful not to hit the bomb itself, Ash ordered. Bulbasaur then shot out a few razor-sharp leaves that cut through the wires cleanly, completely disarming it. Everyone let out a huge sigh of relief upon disarming it, but didn't allow it to last for long. Come on. We've got to save Brock, Misty, and the rest of the guests, Ash said as he and everyone else made their way back to the main room. Ash gave the unconscious Damien one last disgusted look before leaving the engine room. Where are our team members at? Jessie wondered. They should have been here with the helicopters 10 minutes ago. It doesn't matter how long they take now, Jessie, James said. We've already got everyone's Pokemon. It's not like we are in a hurry anymore. This mission was a total success. For once, and this time, there was no twerp with a Pikachu to ruin our plans. Right on cue, there was a loud thud on one of the double doors. Everyone turned in the direction at the loud noise. It then made a loud thud again. Meowth. What in blazes is that noise? Meowth wondered aloud as the thud happened again. It wasn't long before the double doors burst open and a Bulbasaur, 2 Charmander, a Squirtle, a Pikachu, a Nidoran, a Jigglypuff, and an Oddish spilled into the room, followed by Ash and Serena. It's them. Jessie, James, and Meowth gasped in disbelief. I knew that it was suspicious that we didn't see those two here, Jessie growled. Everyone. Ash called into the room. We've found the bomb and disarmed it. We've also called the Vermilion police who are on their way. You aren't in danger anymore. Let's get your Pokemon back. They did what? The Team Rocket trio screamed as they saw the party guests suddenly give them and the other Rocket members angry glares. I think we better prepare for trouble, Jessie started. And make it double, James finished. Mass chaos suddenly broke out in the main room on the ship. The party guests immediately began to tackle any Rocket member they could to get their Pokeballs back. They were trying to fight back, but the party guests outnumbered the Rocket members by a long shot, making it impossible. How could things have turned south so quickly? This plan was going so well. Jessie exclaimed as she was trying to fight off the horde of people. The same twerps as always, of course. Meowth yelled. Such dreadful twerps. James agreed. It was then they heard the sound of helicopters above them and knew their teammates have arrived. Let's get out of here. Every person for themselves. Retreat. Jessie yelled as she, James, and Meowth, struggled against the party guests. They then looked hard and found an opening where there weren't as many party guests. This way. Jessie motioned to her teammates as they rushed out of the room, a few Rocket grunts following suit after seeing the opening. Ash, Serena, and their Pokemon, having been reunited with Brock and Misty, saw Team Rocket escaping and chased after them. You guys aren't getting away. Ash hollered after them. That twerp's chasing us. Meowth yelled to his teammates as they continued to dash towards the deck where the helicopters were waiting. Forget him. Let's just keep running. James shouted back. They soon burst onto the deck where they immediately saw rope ladders extended from the helicopters. They and the grunts that made it grabbed on as the rope ladder began to be pulled up. Don't wait for the ladder to be all of the way up. Just go. The police and some brats are on our tails. Jessie hollered at the pilots. The group made it onto the deck just as the helicopters were pulling away. Ash grimaced once he saw the helicopters flying into the distance. Team Rocket had escaped. About 1 hour later, the group was standing in front of Officer Jenny by the St. Anne. Thank you very much for your heroic efforts, Officer Jenny said as she saluted them. Because of you, everyone was able to get their Pokeballs back, and we were able to arrest most of the Rocket members on the ship. We searched the engine room where you said a few were but found no one. That means Damien was able to get away as well, Ash muttered. Come on, Ash. Don't you get it? You and Serena are real heroes, right now, Brock told them. Thanks, but a lot of it was because of Squirtle, Ash said as he smiled down at it. Squirtle blushed and rubbed the back of its neck nervously. Indeed. I will take the job of making sure Squirtle finds a good home, Officer Jenny said. Did you hear that, Squirtle? Officer Jenny will make sure you find the loving trainer you deserve, Ash told it. At this, Squirtle shook its head. It went over to Ash and pointed one of its fingers at him. You want me to be your trainer? Ash asked it, surprise, to which the Pokemon nodded. I think you would be a great trainer for Squirtle, Serena said. You were the first one to gain its trust, after all. Is that okay, Officer Jenny? Ash asked. I agree. You seem like the type of trainer who will treat Squirtle right, Officer Jenny smiled. All right. Welcome to the group, Squirtle. Ash told it enthusiastically. Squirtle, it said as it removed its sunglasses. It then jumped into a hug from Ash. Looks like I caught a new Pokemon. Ash smiled. Chuyu. Pikachu agreed. That's hardly a catch, Ash, Misty said while rolling her eyes, but it was clear that she was happy, too. I still got a new Pokemon, all the same. Ash replied. He then looked at Squirtle. We're going to make a great team, won't we? Squirtle squirt. It responded happily. Chapter 18, Electric Shock Showdown. After getting his newly acquired Squirtle, Ash and company decided to go take a nice rest at the Pokemon Center in Vermilion City. They had a completely exhausting day so far. After the incident on the St. Anne, Ash decided it would be better if he had his gym battle tomorrow. Evening time had also approached, so it was getting late. When the group got to the Pokemon Center, they saw it was fairly busy at the moment. There was a crowd of trainers lined up at the desk where Nurse Joy was, who were all in a panic. Nurse Joy was trying to calm them down by waving her hands, but to no success. All right, everyone. Settle down, please. I realize all of you were beaten by LT Surge, but our hospital beds are booked at the moment. You will have to keep your Pokemon inside. They're Pokeballs until I can see them, Nurse Joy tried to explain. But Nurse Joy, my Rattata was severely injured at the Vermilion Gym. A young boy begged. My Pokemon were injured, also. Another one cried. And mine, too. Yet another one added. Nurse Joy gave a sigh. All right. Go ahead and hand me your Pokeballs. I will transfer them to the other Pokemon centers across the area. They will be treated there. It's the best I can do at the moment. The crowd nodded as they handed their Pokeballs to Nurse Joy before dispersing around the center. It was after Nurse Joy came back to the front desk after delivering the Pokeballs to the other centers that the group was finally able to speak with her. Oh, hello, she said with a tired smile. What can I do for you today? Yes. We would like 2 rooms for the night, please, Ash said politely. Certainly, Nurse Joy replied as she began to register them on the computer. Did this many trainers lose to the Vermilion City gym leader? Misty asked in amazement as she saw all the trainers around. They did, Nurse Joy responded. He is definitely not a gym leader to be taken lightly. The poor trainers go in there thinking they can take him on, having no prior experience at Pokemon gyms, but they end up being beaten terribly. Ash and Serena immediately thought of when they took on the Battle Chateau for the first time and got destroyed due to their inexperience. I see, Ash said quietly. You aren't getting discouraged, are you? Serena asked him, Pikachu also giving his trainer a worried look. I don't know, I just... Ash started, but was cut off by Misty. You have to beat Surge, Ash. You have already beaten Brock and me. How do you think we'll look if he beats you? Misty shouted. Misty. Go easy on him. You can't just make Ash win, Brock said as he put a hand on her shoulder to calm her. Chew. Chew. Pikachu. Pikachu said as it jumped off Ash's shoulder. What's that, Pikachu? Ash asked it. Pikachu began to make boxing motions and victory poses. You're saying you will face Surge, and there's no way you will lose. Ash guessed. Pika. Pikachu confirmed. Thanks, buddy, Ash smiled. You're a great friend. All right. All of you have your rooms ready. It's a good thing there was space considering how busy we are, Nurse Joy said. Oh, Nurse Joy. You work so hard. How hard you work is only matched by your beauty. Brock exclaimed while running up to take her hands in his. I'm sorry. Nurse Joy asked in a confusing tone. Misty then reached out and grabbed Brock by the ear. She's busy enough with doing her job. She doesn't need it worse by having to worry about you, Misty muttered as she dragged Brock away. Is Brock going to do this for every girl we come across? Serena whispered to Ash. I don't know, but I guess the only thing we can do is ignore it, Ash whispered back. Just then, the doors to the Vermilion Pokemon Center opened once more as another trainer entered. Unlike the previous trainers who entered, this one looked familiar to the group. Whoa. It's Paul, Ash muttered in surprise as the cold-faced boy got closer. Paul noticed the group and frowned upon seeing them. Oh, it's you guys, he mumbled. I take it you just got back from the Vermilion City gym. How did you do? Ash asked. He didn't know why, but he was very curious. I beat him, Paul said simply. Anyone can win the battle with a competent Pokemon. He then looked around at the various trainers scattered around. I guess the same can't be said for these trainers. That just reinforces what I said about scanning the Pokemon with your Pokédex to make sure it's good enough. Don't start that again. Ash said, getting fired up. It's true, but I suppose someone like you won't understand, Paul smirked. Were you able to get the Vermilion City badge? I actually haven't challenged him yet. I'm not going until tomorrow, Ash said sheepishly. Paul glared upon hearing that. Well, after you challenge the gym leader, come find me. I'll have a Pokemon battle with you, assuming you've caught more Pokemon since last time. I have caught more Pokemon. I have a full team of 6 right now, Ash declared. Paul glared again. You've only caught 6 Pokemon after all this time? Well, at least it's enough to test your battle strategy. Most of the Pokemon he captured followed him by choice, Misty muttered, but then covered her mouth. Misty. You aren't helping. Serena whispered harshly. Paul sighed at Ash. You're pathetic, he said. He then noticed Pikachu. You aren't going to battle the gym leader with that Pikachu, are you? Yes, I am. Why does that matter? Ash asked. Paul smirked. Nothing, he said as he walked away to a different part of the Pokemon Center. The group didn't see Paul for the rest of the day. It was the next day, and Ash was really fired up. Seeing Paul at the Pokemon Center had spurred him not to rest at all afterward. He spent all evening training his Pokemon for the Vermilion City Gym. Of course, after the intense training he gave them, he made sure they had a good rest and good food before going to bed himself. As he made his way to the gym, it didn't matter to him that so many trainers had lost to LT Surge. It only mattered that he was determined not to be one of them to prove to Paul that any Pokemon is good enough. He trained his Pokemon very hard, and in return, they worked very hard. He felt he couldn't be a luckier trainer with the superb Pokemon he had. The Vermilion Gym was a large building with several lightning bolts designed onto it. The group stood in front of the intimidating building for a second before Ash took a deep breath. They then entered through the double doors and were met with total darkness. The only light in the building was coming from the windows. The group was met by two people upon entering, a man and a woman, who were dressed as if they were part of a gang if anything. Despite being a little intimidated by their appearance, Ash spoke up. "Hello. My name is Ash Ketchum, and I'm here to challenge the gym leader for a thunder batch." The two people smirked as the man called over his shoulder, "Hey boss. We have another victim for the emergency room." The group glared upon hearing that. What made them so cocky? They then saw a large shadow coming from behind the two subordinates. The shadow came closer until it was revealed to be a hulking man in a green sleeveless shirt and cargo pants. He had spiky brown hair and brown eyes. "Whoa, he's huge," Brock said in awe. "Is that the LT Surge we heard about?" Misty asked in equal amazement. "Welcome to Vermilion Gym, LT Surge suddenly shouted in delight, which startled the group. He then bent down and gave Serena and Misty tight hugs which made them a little uncomfortable. "Oh, my next challengers are cute ones. Don't think I'll go easy on you two." We aren't the trainers," Serena said timidly. She was still intimidated by this guy. LT Surge got a confused expression on his face. "Oh really? Then who is it?" he asked. "I am," Ash declared as he and Pikachu stepped forward. LT Surge then turned to Ash and smiled. "Oh you? Okay then baby," he said as he patted Ash on the head condescendingly. Ash grit his teeth that this guy was treating him like a toddler. "I'm no baby," he shouted as he brushed LT Surge's giant head away. "My name is Ash Ketchum. I always call people who lose to me baby," LT Surge responded. The group frowned upon hearing this. This man was a little too overconfident. "My Pokemon saved my life numerous times during the war. We can stand up to any challenger," LT Surge declared. "Right. Officer Jenny mentioned he is a war hero," Ash remembered. LT Surge then saw Pikachu. "Is that the Pokemon you're going to use?" he asked. "Yeah. That's right," Ash replied. LT Surge then smirked and turned to his two subordinates. "Hey. Look at this. Baby brought along a baby Pokemon." All three of them laughed arrogantly. "Why are you making fun of my Pikachu?" Ash demanded as he and Pikachu glared at LT Surge. "Oh, I'll show you why," LT Surge said as he withdrew a Pokeball from his belt and threw it forward. "Go Pokeball!" The ball landed on the floor and opened up to reveal the Pokemon inside. Ash, Pikachu, and the rest were surprised at the Pokemon that had come out. It was a Raichu. "It's a Raichu," Ash muttered as he and Serena pulled out their Pokédexes to scan it. Raichu, the mouse Pokemon of the electric element. Raichu is the evolved form of Pikachu. It can shock with more than 10,000 volts, enough to render a Dragonite unconscious, the monotone voices of the Pokédexes said. This must have been why Paul chuckled when he learned I was using Pikachu. He doesn't think we have a chance against a Raichu. Well, Pikachu and I will show him. Ash thought. As you can see, there's no way your little Pikachu can win against my Raichu. You're better off leaving right now or choosing a different Pokemon, LT Surge told Ash. Maybe LT Surge is right, Ash, Misty suddenly spoke, which caused Ash to look at her in surprise. I'm not saying you should quit, but try using a different Pokemon. You don't have to use Pikachu here. Before Ash could respond, Pikachu stepped forward and glared at the Raichu in front of it. You still want to battle Pikachu? Ash asked it, to which Pikachu nodded. In that case, I'm sticking with Pikachu, Ash declared. My Pikachu has the strength of any Raichu, and we aren't afraid of it. Heh, What could a baby like that do? If you want to become a Pokemon master, you should make your Pokemon evolve as soon as you catch them, LT. Serge said as he patted Raichu on the head. Pokemon don't have to evolve to be strong. I've trained my Pokemon very hard, and each one of them have performed excellently because of it. Ash stated. In that case, let's put your theory to the test. You'll learn playing with the big boys can be a shocking experience, LT. Serge smirked. He then clapped his hands as the lights to the gym finally turned on. The group shielded their eyes from the sudden change in brightness, but quickly recovered. LT. Serge and his Raichu went over to the other side of the room while Ash, Pikachu, and the rest of the group stayed on the side they were on. The two subordinates went to the center of the room to judge. Come on, Ash. You can do it. You and Pikachu have a great bond. Serena encouraged him from behind, causing Ash to smile at her. Thanks, Serena. We've got this. He replied, giving her a thumbs up, Pikachu doing the same. Do you really think Ash can win Brock? Misty whispered to Brock. Brock sighed. It's going to be extremely tough. Raichu excels at Pikachu in almost every aspect. Ash really has his work cut out for him. Ash glared at Serge while Pikachu sparked its cheeks at the Raichu. The other two simply wore arrogant smiles on their faces. This will be a one-on-one official Vermilion City Gym match. The male subordinate announced. The leader, LT. Serge, will be using Raichu. The challenger, Ash Ketchum, will be using Pikachu. There will be no time limit. Begin. Go, Pikachu. Use Thunder Shock. Ash called as Pikachu leaped forward with LT. Serge's Raichu doing the same. Pikachu let loose its electricity, scoring a direct hit. Much to it and Ash's surprise, it didn't appear to hurt Raichu at all. LT. Serge laughed. See? What did I tell you? Raichu. Show them a real Thunder Shock. Raichu then charged up its electricity and let loose a Thunder Shock that was substantially larger than Pikachu's was. The electricity slammed into Pikachu and knocked it back several yards. The group gasped at how powerful the Thunder Shock was. Pikachu was laying on the ground in obvious pain. It was struggling to get back up. It's over, baby, LT. Serge said. You didn't really think that your puny Pikachu could beat my Raichu, did you? Ash, call back Pikachu. Brock suddenly yelled from behind Ash. Raichu's shocks are way too powerful. This is a mismatch. Brock's right, Ash. Raichu is way too strong. Misty agreed. I know it hurts, Ash, but they're right. We need to think of a strategy and try again later. I don't want to see Pikachu any more injured than it already is. Serena cried. Ash grimaced. Even Serena didn't think he and Pikachu stood a chance against LT. Serge. Maybe they were right. Pikachu, Ash sighed. Let's forfeit. We can come back anytime. To his and everyone else's surprise, Pikachu got up and shook its head. It still wanted to battle. It was not going to lose to Raichu that easily. Pikachu doesn't want to stop. This is bad, Brock commented. Heh, your Pikachu is pretty gutsy for a toy, LT. Serge chuckled as Pikachu ran forward towards the Raichu again. No, Pikachu. Come back. Ash yelled, but it fell on deaf ears. Playtime is over. Raichu. Mega Punch. LT. Serge called. Raichu reared back its fist and punched Pikachu right in the face before Pikachu could land a hit. Now a Mega Kick. LT. Serge followed up. Raichu then brought its foot back and rammed it into Pikachu, sending it sprawling backwards onto the floor. Pikachu. Ash called out worriedly. Now give us the grand finale, Raichu. Use Thunderbolt. LT. Surge ordered. Raichu then sent out a huge amount of electricity which zapped Pikachu head-on. Ash and the rest of the group could only look on in horror as Pikachu screamed in pain before the electric attack finally stopped. It then fell over and didn't get back up. Pikachu! Ash cried as he ran over and scooped up Pikachu in his arms. I forfeit Surge. That's enough. Good choice, baby, LT. Surge replied as he returned Raichu. As I said, electric Pokemon need to evolve once they learn all of their electrical attacks. If you keep your Pikachu the way it is now, it will be nothing more than a pet. Ash glared. He couldn't think of a response to that. He looked at the unconscious Pokemon in his arms worriedly. What if Pikachu were to ever become a Raichu? What would happen then? Once the group arrived back at the Pokemon Center, they were surprised to find Paul waiting for them. Well? Paul asked. Despite his lack of words, the group knew what he meant. I didn't get it, Ash grimaced as he still cradled Pikachu in his arms. He then glared at Paul. You knew LT? Surge always used Raichu, didn't you? That's why you laughed at my Pikachu yesterday. So what if I did? Had I told you, would that have changed your decision to use it? Paul asked. Ash looked down at the ground. Paul was right. He still would have used Pikachu regardless what Paul had said about LT. Surge. You're never going to beat LT. Surge the way you are now, Paul told Ash. If you want to win, you need to go out and catch stronger Pokemon. My Pokemon are plenty strong. I don't care what you say about scanning their stats. Any Pokemon can be strong if trained and bond with their trainers. Ash stubbornly yelled. Ash, please calm down, Serena said. She had never seen anybody get Ash this fired up except Gary Oak. Suit yourself. If you spend your time bonding with Pokemon rather than training them to the extreme, they will only become weak. I'm not even going to bother battling you if you can't beat the Vermilion Gym, Paul said. Just you wait. I'm going to challenge Surge to a rematch once Pikachu feels better, and then we'll win next time. Ash yelled. Heh. Whatever, Paul smirked as he walked away. Oh, Pikachu. You're awake. Ash said as he went over to check on his Pokemon once it opened its eyes. Chuyu, Pikachu muttered and turned away with an upset expression on its face. Take it easy, Ash. Pikachu was hurt pretty badly, Brock told him. I know it has, Ash replied. No. I mean its spirit was hurt. Pikachu was totally overpowered by that Raichu, Brock corrected. Ash then felt tears burn his eyes. Pikachu was trying its hardest, and there was nothing I could do the entire time but watch it, he muttered. Serena put her hand on Ash's shoulder to comfort him, but Ash didn't pay attention to it. There has to be some way to beat that Raichu, Ash said. There might be a way, a voice suddenly spoke up. The group turned in surprise to find Nurse Joy there. I'm sorry, she apologized, but I overheard your conversation and thought that maybe you can use this. She then held out a shiny bluish-gray stone with a lightning bolt in the middle of it. It's a thunderstone, Ash mumbled. I could evolve Pikachu into a Raichu with this. This bit of information hit Pikachu's ears, and it sat up to look curiously. Paul happened to be walking by the room at the moment. Upon seeing what was taking place, he stopped to watch, also. If I evolve Pikachu with this, it might be strong enough to win, Ash mumbled to himself. You have to think hard before using the Thunderstone, Nurse Joy said solemnly. That's right, Misty agreed. If you make Pikachu evolve, you can't change it back. Pikachu will never be the same, Brock added. What's there to think about? Paul asked as he stepped into the room. If you evolve your Pikachu, you might actually win. Isn't that what you want? Nobody asked you, Paul, Misty said rudely. Het. I'm only saying that's the only way he'll win, Paul smirked. Ash took the Thunderstone and gave it a hard look. If I use this Thunderstone to evolve Pikachu, it might be strong enough to win. On the other hand, if I make it evolve just to fight, I would be just like Serge and Paul. Ash then turned towards his rodent partner. Pikachu, what do you want to do? He asked it. Pikachu questioned while looking at the Thunderstone. I really want to beat LT Serge, but I also don't want to force you to evolve if you'd be happier staying the way you are now, Ash told it. Pikachu appeared to be deep in thought as it looked at Thunderstone. Everyone in the room was watching it, awaiting its decision. Pikachu then got up on its own 2 feet and walked closer to the Thunderstone in Ash's hands. Pikachu? Ash questioned. It looked like Pikachu was about to accept the Thunderstone's power. Suddenly, Pikachu swung its tail around and knocked the Thunderstone away, surprising everyone except Paul, who frowned. Pikachu then began to go on a rant. Despite not understanding what Pikachu was saying, Ash got the idea of it. You're saying if you're going to beat Raichu, you'll do it just as you are? Ash asked, to which Pikachu nodded. Ash then took Pikachu's hands in his own and got a determined expression on his face. Pikachu, together you and I will defeat LT Serge and his Raichu, he stated, to which Pikachu nodded. If you aren't going to evolve your Pikachu, it's just a lost cause, Paul muttered as he turned to walk away. You know what, Paul? I don't get you. You seem to care nothing for what any of your Pokemon think. I saw that back at the Pewter City Pokemon Center. Ash scowled while turning to face Paul. Paul turned around and glared back at Ash, and I thought you wanted to win. This statement startled Ash, but he quickly recovered. I do, but not the way you go about doing it. Ash fired back. Paul gave a light grunt and walked out of the room, Ash glaring after him. He had never met anyone like Paul before. What was his deal? Just ignore what Paul said, Ash said, turning back to Pikachu. I have faith in you. We're going to win for sure. Ash, are you sure you want to use Pikachu? Serena asked. I don't agree with the choice of words Paul used, but it may not hurt to use one of your other Pokemon against Serge, Brock suggested. It's hard, but it's not impossible. Pikachu and I will find a way to win. Ash stated. Pikachu. The yellow rodent nodded. Exactly. There has to be something you have that Raichu doesn't, Ash agreed. Now we just need to find out what it is. Never give up until the end. Pikachu. It nodded again. It then got a tired look on its face as it sat down on the bed. I guess you still need a little rest, huh, buddy? Ash asked. Chew, it replied in the affirmative. Ash and Pikachu have such an amazing friendship. He trusts it so much that he's willing to go up against LT Serge again with it. Their determination is incredible. I guess his endurance is just one of the many things I like about him, Serena thought. Brock crossed his arms and appeared to be in thought. Hey, Ash, he spoke up. What's up, Brock? Ash asked. LT Serge said he made Raichu evolve as soon as he got it, didn't he? Brock inquired. Yeah, that's right, Ash replied. Then perhaps there is a way to win, Brock smiled. The group stood in front of the gym once again. This time, however, they knew what to expect with LT Serge. Thanks to Brock's idea, Ash and Pikachu definitely felt ready this time. They had a good strategy. Are you ready, buddy? Ash asked the rodent, who nodded in response. Then let's go, Ash said seriously as they walked through the lightning-adorned double doors. You've got this, Ash, Serena encouraged. LT. Surge. It's me, Ash Ketchum. I've come for a rematch. Ash shouted into the darkness. The lights turned on and the group once again saw LT. Surge and his two assistants standing in the middle of the gym. Heh, you're coming back so soon? You didn't even evolve your Pikachu like I suggested. Didn't you learn anything from our last battle? LT. Surge asked. As a matter of fact, I did, Ash responded. Pikachu and I have a strategy now. Is it a new strategy on how to lose, baby? LT. Surge smirked. You'll see, replied Ash. Heh, well, as gym leader of Vermilion City I accept your challenge once again, LT. Surge said. Maybe another beating is what you need to teach you a lesson. I don't care what you say. I'm sticking with Pikachu. Ash shouted. And I'm sticking with Reishu. LT. Surge replied as he sent out the large orange mouse. The Reishu appeared and crossed its arms like its master. Ready when you are, baby, LT. Surge said. Do you think Ash's strategy will be enough, Brock? Serena asked. It should be, but Ash still should know not to get overconfident as that could still lead to his defeat, Brock replied. This will be an official Vermilion City gym match. LT. Surge will be using Reishu while the challenger, Ash, will be using Pikachu. There will be no time limit. Begin. The male subordinate shouted. Pikachu, use quick attack. Ash called. Pikachu began to dash forward confidently while Ash smiled. I knew it. LT. Surge isn't ordering Reishu to use any speed attacks. Pikachu was just about to ram into Reishu's stomach when to its surprise, Reishu stepped out of the way just in time, and Pikachu went soaring by it. Reishu then reached out and grabbed Pikachu by the tail. What? Ash exclaimed. Ash. Remember. Don't let your strategy go to waste. You should still know better than to have Pikachu charge Reishu head on like that. Brock advised. Heh, that won't work, baby. Reishu. Use Thunder Shock. LT. Surge yelled. While still holding onto Pikachu's tail, Reishu unleashed its massive Thunder Shock. Pikachu yelled in pain, but Reishu wasn't done. It then slammed Pikachu into the floor and began slapping it with its tail. Oh, this just like last time. Misty cried worriedly. Use Body Slam, Reishu. LT. Surge ordered. Reishu then fell forward and put all of its weight into slamming on top of Pikachu. Pikachu screamed in pain once again as it felt the larger creature fall on top it. Ash grit his teeth. How can this happen? Is there really no way for his Pikachu to beat this Reishu? Should he really decide on using a different Pokemon? Pikachu wasn't thinking those thoughts, however. It didn't care if this Reishu was bigger than it. It didn't care that Reishu's electric attacks were more powerful. All it knew was one thing. It was going to fight in the name of all Pikachu, and it would defend its honor and Ash's as well. It would not lose a second time to this Reishu. Finish this off with one last body slam. LT. Surge yelled. No, Pikachu. Ash called. Hearing its name called by Ash was all Pikachu needed to summon strength inside of itself. It got a determined expression on its face and jumped out of the way just in time. Reishu ended up missing and crashed onto the arena floor in pain. All right, Pikachu. Ash cheered. Pikachu turned back to Ash and gave it smile. Chew. It said. Ash understood it to be wanting a command and smiled as well. You got it, Pikachu. Use agility. He said. Pikachu began to sprint forward at incredibly fast speed. This seemed to surprise LT. Surge, who cried out. Reishu, use body slam. Raichu lunged itself at Pikachu once again, but Pikachu dashed out of the way once more, causing Raichu to hit the floor again. Raichu kept trying to repeat at body slam attempts, but they were missing every time. Pikachu was just too quick. "It's working," Serena said in happiness. Brock smiled as well. Yes, Raichu evolved too fast to learn the speed attacks it can only learn in the Pikachu stage. All Pikachu has to do is outspeed Raichu at everything. "Continue to use agility, Pikachu," Ash called. Pikachu then began to run around in circles around Raichu. The orange mouse was trying to keep up with Pikachu's speed, but was unable to and became dizzy. "Your Raichu is way too slow, Surge. That's its weakness," Ash said to LT. "Surge. LT." Surge was growing frustrated as he clenched his fists. "Grr, okay Raichu. Give that Pikachu a thunderbolt. Shut it down." Raichu gave a charge and let out a yell as it delivered a massive thunderbolt. The attack was so powerful that it shattered the windows and tore up parts of the floor. The group looked in shock at the Raichu's power. They didn't see how Pikachu could have made it through that attack. LT. Surge smirked. "End of the match," he said, but then got a surprised look on his face as the smoke cleared. "What the?" Pikachu was revealed to be standing on its tail. "Way to go, Pikachu," Ash praised as the rest of the group was ecstatic. "Ah, Pikachu used its tail as a ground to dodge the electric shocks." "That was clever," Brock explained. "Really? Well, let's see it dodge Thunderbolt twice. Do it again, Raichu." LT. Surge told it. Raichu began to charge up once again but stopped. It then tried again but was unable to and got a confused expression its face. "It's over." Raichu ran out of electricity, Brock commented. "We've got it now, Pikachu. Use quick attack." Ash commanded. "Use takedown." LT. Surge called out frantically. Raichu attempted to use the attack, but Pikachu slammed right into its gut before it was able to do anything. "Use slam," Ash called. Pikachu charged up its tail with electricity and swung it around to smack Raichu in the face. "And now Iron Tail," Ash finished. Pikachu's tail glowed white and it slammed its tail right into Raichu's middle section. Raichu yelled in pain and fell backwards in defeat. "Unbelievable. LT." Surge cried. Pikachu smiled to itself. It had done it. It beat its evolved form. There was only one emotion Pikachu was feeling right now. Pleased. "You did it, Pikachu," it heard Ash cry from behind it. Pikachu turned around and smiled as Ash lifted it into the air and gave it a big hug. "This was your victory," Ash told it. "Pikachu!" Pikachu shouted happily. Serena, Misty, and Brock smiled at the scene in front of them. Those two should be really proud of themselves right now. LT. Surge, his Raichu, and the two assistants came over to Ash and smiled. "That was a great victory, Ash. You really proved me wrong by showing me evolving fast isn't always the way to go, LT." Surge said. "Thanks, LT. Surge," Ash replied. "As proof of your victory, you have definitely earned the Thunder Badge, LT." Surge said as he handed Ash a yellow badge with many ends and an orange center. "Wow, a Thunder Badge," Ash muttered as he took it from LT Surge's hand. He then showed it to Pikachu. "Take a look at that, Pikachu. It was all thanks to you." "Rai." Raichu added as it praised Pikachu also. Pikachu rubbed the back of his head embarrassedly at all the praise it was receiving. LT. Surge and his subordinates then began to clap. "You are no baby, Ash. Good luck in the rest of your gym challenges," he said. "Thank you," Ash said before giving Pikachu another hug. "Those two are quite a team, aren't they?" Serena asked. They sure are. Misty and Brock responded. The group decided to rest one more night at the Pokemon Center before heading off to their next destination. When they got to the center, they were surprised to see Paul was still there. They thought he might have left after the confrontation from earlier. Upon seeing them, Paul glared and turned to walk away, but Ash called out to him. Hey Paul. I just got the Thunder Badge from LT. Surge. I won it with Pikachu, after all. Ash shouted. What? You actually won with that Pikachu? Paul asked, turning around. Despite not showing many emotions a lot, even Paul looked mildly surprised at that information. That's right. Ash smiled. What do you say to that? It turns out LT Surge's Reishu evolved so fast it never learned the speed attacks. Pikachu was able to beat it because it was too quick for the Reishu. Upon hearing this, Paul smirked again. What's so funny? Ash asked, getting angry. This just proved that you were wrong. Pokemon don't have to evolve to win battles. If I had evolved Pikachu fast like Surge, it would never have learned its other attacks. When did I say anything about evolving your Pokemon fast? Asked Paul. Everyone knows that some Pokemon can only learn certain attacks in their pre-evolutionary form. I merely said you should evolve your Pokemon once they learn all of their useful attacks. That's the only way for them to get stronger. Well, Ash started but was interrupted by Paul. We both know that if that Reisha knew any speed attacks, your Pikachu still would have lost, Paul finished. What did you say? Ash shouted. Chuyu. Pikachu growled. Paul had just totally insulted its pride as a Pikachu. That's not true. Serena said while stepping in. Ash won because of the incredible bond he and Pikachu have. If you guys think that love instead of strict training makes a Pokemon stronger, then why don't you prove it in a battle with me? Are you in or not? Paul asked. You bet I'm in. Ash declared. Name the time and place. Tomorrow morning. 11 o'clock. Right on the outskirts of Vermilion City. I don't have all day to spend waiting, so don't be late, Paul told him. I'll be there. Ash confirmed. Paul gave a rough smile before he shoved his hands in his pockets and walked away. The group watched him until he disappeared into another part of the Pokemon Center. I've got to beat him tomorrow, Ash said to himself. The way he trains Pokemon is just wrong. Ash sure is worked up, isn't he? Misty whispered to Brock. Of course he is. This battle has a lot on the line. Ash and Paul are two completely different trainers, Brock responded. Serena watched Ash with worry. She didn't agree with the way Paul trained Pokemon either, but there was something with the way Ash and Paul's personalities clashed which added fuel to their arguments. It seemed Ash had found another rival besides Gary Oak. Unlike Ash and Gary, who merely had arguments, these two flat out disliked each other. There's no way I'm going to lose to Paul, Ash said with determination. I can't.